We're live.
We're live. Are you fighting on blood in the river to be the same thing?
Let me open up my YouTube channel and I'll just verify that it's working. Yeah, it's live. All right.
It's going to be the same motion. Up or down. Straight down.
So from here, as you all recall, we have the arm trap roll piece. So basically, from here, they get ready to open. Final thing to do arm trap roll is you grab an arm, and then you can bridge.
So I do that 10 times.
Roll me. Now we're in what position? Yes, we are at both guards. And so from here, yeah.
Just pause 1 second. Seth is going to run through and grab the weapon. All right, go ahead. Hmm?
You're going to switch it up.
And then this is where we just started, right? So now I'm on the bottom. Now I'm going to
Boar's Tooth or Alber?
We got lots of room. Yeah, well,
This should be a review for a lot of you.
this area. Right. So,
If not, again, make
come
yourself
forward
clear.
there, so we're behind
If
you.
it's a little while, that's fine.
Can we have Matt on it backwards then, so that we can see the instructor?
If this is not your first day, grab a partner, and we're
And then
going to
everybody can think it's definitely
slow that a little bit. Does that make sense? Okay, so, and then, okay. So, everyone else ready on 3, 1, 2, 3.
Right. So we're going to go with this.
And then, actually, Cindy, if you want to,
All the way to the floors.
and just kind of like walk me through.
This time we're going to come in. Same thing with our feet. Twist thing.
And then have a meeting for
Stop.
then you can,
So that helps.
and then you can kind of like walk me through it from there. Sure. All right, so I see you guys got to say something last.
So we should have another one with our hands on. Oh, it's going to be sort of.
All right, let's see these arm grab and roll. So one in. Why not cross? And then we're passing her.
You're gonna put your legs out.
You're good.
You want to get right into lesson?
Yeah, I'll jump in here because this is pretty close to what I wanted to cover anyways. So as you know, I have been exploring, looking at medieval texts side by side, looking for commonalities from a body mechanics, biomechanics point of view. Knowing that this has come up very often recently as people are saying they're so tense when they fight, leading you to gas out earlier. So I've been looking at commonalities between positions and not necessarily like going all in on Fiore, but also using it as like a way to bookend what I'm doing with Lichtenauer. So what we were just doing was, okay, so in the Lichtenauer glosses, we are told the first guard we're told to be in is barrier guard, right? And it's just said that the sword point is off to your side. We later see this as Schrankhut barrier guard and Meyer, but Meyer has these exaggerated postures, right? And when I do this to you, Tom, what do you want to do? Crush me in my hands, right?
Yeah, that or stab you through the.
Right. So this requires a lot of muscular tension to do, right? So the way I'm looking at it is when you fight, you don't want to be tense, you want to be relaxed. You explode from stillness into tension, because if you're tense, you have to untense to throw the blade and then tense back again for power, right? So what we want to look at is the default guards you should fight from and understand why, and then look at where the other guards fit into place. So I'm kind of looking at it systematically rather than viewing the Zettel and Lichtenauer's glosses and Fiore as like A to Z instruction manual of do these things in this order, right? Because all of the common stuff that you're already expected to know is in there if you read between the lines. So instead of barrier guard or shrank like this, Fiore tells us iron gate. Yes, there's probably subtle differences, but until you can actually do these without thinking about it, it's not, you're not ready to worry about the nuances yet. I don't think I am. So I would say when we're talking about this is your arms should be loose, right? So I have my pommel here, I have my sword here, my long edge is facing forward, but the idea is that I'm generating power and I'm moving my lower body in this position. So if I'm moving around and I'm fighting, I don't want to be holding it like this because this is muscular tension. I want to be loose, right? So the idea is if I switch my legs, what naturally happens if my arms are loose? I naturally come into this position. I'm not holding it like this, like you see in Meyer descriptions that, again, muscular tension. So that's the idea of that low guard, is that you can use your lower body to transmit force from the ground into your blade. So you can cut long edge from here, but using a rising blow to parry and attack is more effective with the short edge. So like the idea of what we're doing here is without a step, we can pivot our foot off the ground to throw that short edge powerfully forward, but it's coming from the legs. Sword tip still has to move first, but you're throwing it from the lower body first, right? But I'm starting in a position where I'm very loose, so that if I'm moving around and you throw a cut at me, Tom, right, I'm just, and then I'm coming back down.
Yeah.
Same thing on the other side, right? It should just be very loose.
The other side?
You could throw from your dominant side, yeah. So I'm very loose, right? And I'm back down. So the idea is that I can explode from stillness quickly. It's much faster. So what I wanted to do is take a look at that concept, but for Vom Tog, right? Everyone look around at each other and show me a different variation of Vom Tog that you've seen or heard of. No repeats. Be as silly as you want to. Everyone look around and do a different version of Vom Tog. Okay. Yeah, exactly. The hands low Vom Tog where it's not Vom Tog. Point being, like, if you Google image search Vom Tog, there you'll find various images of, there's like endless variations, right? Most popular one that you'll see with Lichtenauer sources is this one, right? Because you can launch anything that requires thumb grip from here, and it's easy on the shoulders, and again, you're not holding tension. So what we're going to do is everyone show me your best Vom Tog. Okay. All right. So I'm going to go over what I think. You can put it down, because a lot of you are holding it in tension. Okay. I'm not telling you have to do this. I just want to provide you a different look at taking the same approach of being relaxed for Vom Tog, which can lead you to be safer, to not telegraph, and to not use as much energy in cutting. So what we're going to do is first, we are going to put our swords down. And, okay, so, all right, so what we're going to do is we are going to take non-dominant foot forward. We're going to make sure our chest is straight, so straight ahead. And we're not going to do a step, and we're not going to do a hip twist. So we're just going to go into this position. We're going to, like finger guns, right? We're going to be straight up here, pointing at the ceiling. And what we're going to do is we're going to throw our hands forward until we feel our shoulders rotate in the socket. And that's the limit of our full extension. If you had a sword, that would be essentially what you're doing when you cut to long point and you're at that point of full extension, right? So we're just doing this, and we're coming out, and we want to feel those shoulders roll forward, right? So Josh is already doing it. Go ahead, everyone look at Josh. Watch him do it. What's he doing with his body? Yeah, his hands throwing forward is starting to pull him forward. He's wanting to move forward when he throws his fingers in front, right? All right, so what we're going to do is, the next step is, we are going to make a slight adjustment. So instead of going shoulder straight forward, we are going to bring our hands up like this, like we're holding a sword, but we're going to bring our non-dominant shoulder forward. Okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to do the same thing, but now we're going to also lean a little bit on our leg that's forward. We want to be like 60-40 weight distribution. And we're going to, again, go from here, and we're going to throw forward. Okay. So just here. So again, shoulder should be forward. Here. Shoulder. Here. So this time, what we're going to do is we're going to add that hip turn. So I'll do it from the side. Shoulder here, withdrawn. So I want your foot to come all the way up because I really want your hip to be involved. I'm not saying fight like this, but typically when we drill something with a certain cue, it will allow us to get more hip activation when we actually use footwork. So. Okay. Let's see, one more slight change. Okay, so here, shoulder, left shoulder, non-dominant shoulder is forward. When we throw forward and we feel like our foot coming up, I want you to finish your step, and I want you to end finger guns forward. Yeah, do a couple of those. I'll do it again from the side. All right, I'm going to watch everyone. Bless you. So when you start that, definitely start coming up so that it's essentially what you're doing is you're using the rotation of your body and the rotation of your hip hinge to generate speed and power forward. So when you come up, then you step. Yeah.
So when we do should we keep the proud posture or stay forward?
You still want to be proud posture. The question was, when we land, do we want to be forward like this, or do we still want to be proud posture? Okay? We still want to be like as if we just cut to long point. So we're presenting a threat. So Seth, you're jumping ahead. That's good. We want to be that full shoulders rolled out extension. Yep. Okay. All right. So one last thing, and then we are going to grab a sword, and I'll explain a little bit more of how to adjust with the sword, and then we'll drill with the sword, and then we'll talk about it, and then we're just going to spar. That's it. I just wanted to go over this in general. So the last step is, if you have taken class with me recently, I've been talking a lot about structure and how at full extension you don't have as much structure. And then after you cut to full extension, you should bring your structure back in for a bind. So we're going to do the same thing. So breaking it down, again, shoulder back, finger guns, throw it out, foot comes up, step. And then when you land, I want you to bring back in. So that almost like, depending on your chest size and your arm size, for me, my arms are going to be pinned to my rib cage. So play around with that, do a bunch of reps, play with the timing, because eventually you can have it so that your foot lands and you're back into that structure at the same time, like this. So yes, I cut to full extension, but then I came back into structure when that foot lands. We should probably move Bob out of the way. Yeah, just over that way. Just because we'll start moving everybody this way. We'll need more space when we have the swords out. Okay. I think we've gotten everything we can get out of that without swords. Does that make sense to everybody? Like the key takeaways for this are the biomechanics of your body is rotating to generate power and your hip is turning to generate power and it's pulling you forward, but then you want to land with structure. Does everyone understand that?
Yes.
Okay. Take a 2-minute water break and then we're gonna grab the swords and then we'll go from there.
I found a way. For me explaining balance with the kids.
I don't think
using the
so.
sword.
I don't think so. Oh, with the ball?
No,
No.
there's like a position where your feet are too far this way, right? Or
Yeah.
Too far this way.
Yeah.
Well, never really too far this way. You can take this step,
Yeah.
but I have a way to explain it.
Okay. Yeah, you're welcome to jump in. You just got to talk into my chest because I have the microphone. Yeah, what is that, Tan? It's a what?
It's a blunt.
Oh, okay.
Take your sword, right?
Yeah.
Take your stance.
My sword?
No, just like your footwork stance, right? All right, so if well, your feet are a bit long, but I'll get the longer sword.
Sorry.
But if let's just pull it back a little bit, right? Like forward a little bit.
Do this one?
Yeah, just pull it forward. If your foot crosses over this sword when it's lined up with your foot, and your foot is too far that way.
Yeah.
So bring your heel exactly to that sword.
That is what's going to decapitate Bob. In his hands, that will decapitate
And
Bob.
bring it out a little bit because you're bending the sword. So don't bend the sword this time. That is about like the furthest that you want your feet to go in that direction. Because that keeps your feet in line.
Yeah.
Right? And they're not like crossing over. Right? So you can actually use that to get people to not do this.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying?
You're saying you wouldn't want to go any more this way,
Yes.
but you could go more this way.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
see what I'm saying?
Yes, 100%.
So-
I've used that before myself. Is like when you do your footwork, you need to be able to do this and stay. Each foot needs to stay on its same side, unless you cross this way.
I want to briefly do that
Okay.
real quick.
Yeah. That thing is huge.
Love it.
Of course you do.
Here's that. Where'd you get that?
He bought this fake feather that will kill somebody and have to fight.
It's not sharp.
Oh, please don't try it right now.
Say he wants to kill Bob. I told you. Yeah.
I mean, technically it's his, or one of them is his, right?
I think it's that.
Yo, this is the Sensei sword.
I know.
Can't even.
Forgot and new people. We do have the sword slap very much more.
Yes.
Swinging
Wait.
we want to watch out, right? So if you ever need to go to the bathroom,
This is like
water back there.
half of a
You have a
montage.
rope to tie it up. So you go.
100 straws.
Any of the shots. I will give my hand to.
If
Oh my God.
Frank Hank buys it, then
Right.
I'll put
So
stuff with him.
those
I'll
would be
probably
pretty
get
good.
that.
You should just sharpen it.
That is very cool. I use that one a lot.
Yeah. Sharpen and keep it as an actual sword.
Oh, here we go. Katana measuring contest.
It's a lot bigger than mine. But yours is technically more useful. Mine's a real one.
You just have to take that out to the street.
It's like somebody play horses with that thing.
That is meant to be you play horses.
I rest my case.
That was historically used to kill horses and to fight that.
Oh my gosh. All right, let's get back to class. All right. So now that we have our swords out, let's spread out a little bit so we have room. I'll try to speak up, but I also don't want to talk over that class.
We don't have enough, do we?
All right.
Okay. So we're going to take all those principles we applied without a sword to a sword. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through them line by line, and then we'll do the drill again. So the idea is, number one, the whole purpose is to be loose and relaxed, because tension is slow if it's at the start. We want to come from a place of being loose. So we also don't want our hands in range ahead of our body, because that's a target. And we also don't want our body chest forward, because that's an invitation for a thrust, right? If I walk around like this, I'm inviting a thrust in, right? And then I have to deal with it. So, and again, we want to have rotation to our body, because that's additional power and speed going into the cut. And we don't want to have the sword too far forward, meaning I've seen people fight here, which either you don't have much room to actually get the sword moving very fast, or you have to pull back. Now, I'm over-exaggerating this, but if you have your own fetter, it might be helpful for you to take video and video your cuts and see how far you're starting, to see if you're actually having to pull back a little bit to start, because that's a huge tell, right? So what we want to do instead is we're going to take our sword and we're going to put it at like a 45-degree angle on our shoulder, and our cross guard should be like right in our armpit, right? And we want to make sure that our hands are lined up, like not too far rotated. And the reason for that is we want both hands being active in the cut. If we have it too far rotated, what will happen is that only one hand will be accelerating the sword until later in the cut. And then we want to make sure we turn our shoulder this way, away from our opponent, and we're going to do the cuts from here. So the first step with the sword was, we're here, and what we're going to do is we're going to cut, but we're going to come up on our heel. We're not going to step yet. So we're going to cut the long point from here with our foot coming up off the ground and our hip twist. So our shoulder is what's forward, and we're going to cut here. So again, after you cut, reset yourself. Check that we've done all the things. Our sword is in a relaxed position, right? I could stand here all day like this, right? I could just chill here. Turn the shoulder, cut. Now, this will also give you an advantage in the bind, and will give you a higher likelihood to win the center than if you were just cutting straight in. We can play with that and test that assumption, but that's my take on it. So again, shoulder is turned, cross guard in the armpit, 45-degree angle, pivot on the hip. All right, do 10 of those. Get used to it, play with it. Try different ways to do it, meaning like try to turn your hip a little bit more, play with a little bit less. One thing you can also do is make sure your weight is shifting a little bit forward, because essentially as we're going to add the step in, if you have to lean a little bit to go into your step, it's a tell. So you can already apply a little bit of forward lean on the hip of the leg that's forward. So what I mean by that is, okay, I'm here, I'm turned, I want to lean into my hip a little bit so that when I do step, there's no tell of my hip moving forward. It's already kind of chambered. So what that'll look like when we step, okay, going through the checklist, I'm relaxed, sword is on my shoulder, 45 degrees, my arms are withdrawn, they're not available as targets, my shoulder is turned, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to shift my weight a little bit forward, 60-40, a little bit, don't need to worry about the numbers, but just a little bit forward, I'm up on the balls of my feet, I'm going to cut, and I'm going to step. Do a bunch of those.
I want to go over this before, because I see a lot of people
All right, jump in, yep.
off balance. If you put your swords on the ground, directly in front of you, right? And you have your foot, right? You put the heel of your foot right here, right? And you put your other foot on this side, right? When you do these things, you shouldn't be crossing over this line, right? So if I'm here, if I end up here, then look, just this little bit of handle is making me be off balance, right? Because my feet are not lined up in a way that's going to promote me having good balance, right? So when you guys are lined up, you always want to make sure that your feet are like far enough apart away from your other heel, right? Because what it is it's this heel, the heel that's back, right? If this heel crosses past that heel, then you're going to be off balance. Your heels can never switch in the middle. They can never go. You don't want your heels to be lined up in this way, right? When you
Wider is better in this case because then you can get more movement in the hip.
even if you're doing like gathering steps forward, I'm still not like allowing my heels to cross over into the point where I get thrown off balance, right?
Your butt muscles are the largest muscles in your body. Because of that, we want to let them do what they do naturally, and we have to open our hips up to allow that to happen. So that's where a lot of our footwork speed is going to come from. Especially because we're not fighting back and forth only. We're fighting in a circle, hopefully. Do you want to look at everyone? Go around, since this is your... So Ken's question is, should your hips be the same as your shoulder width? It depends. Everybody's like anatomy is different. I have super wide hips that they're wider than my shoulders are. So I have to come out really wide for me to be comfortable. Yeah. Like my body is 60% legs because my hip, the crest of my hip comes up to here and my rib cage is here. I have one finger between my hip and my rib cage. So I fight like this, but that allows me to be fast, even if it looks funny to you. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Yeah. So play with going as wide as you can. I'm a big fan of over-exaggerating cues, but that's just how my brain works. Like I have to over-exaggerate to understand a cue. So I sometimes will just go super wide just to get used to it, and then it's easier to bring it in.
Indicate the balance, right? So you have your foot there, right? You as long as your foot doesn't touch the ground,
Okay, so go ahead and grab your swords, and let's pick up where we left off. Does anyone have any questions before I keep going? We're almost done. So the last step, right? We're cutting into a long point and we're stepping, but in this position where we're at full extension, our shoulders are still rolled forward. So we want to end in this position of structure. You can also come in like this as well. So restart. Yep. Seth, with your body posture, you were like made to do Fiore. Because you're like, you just naturally, like, you look like the Fiore plates. Seriously. That's a good thing. That's a compliment. I hope you take it that way. Josh, try changing the angle so that you're already at a 45-degree angle. Some of yours were fair because it's very long. Yeah. Longer cross guards may make that a little bit more difficult. Okay. Okay. Meaning actually coming back here. Okay. I mean, if that's more comfortable for you, play around with it. See which one feels faster.
What we're gonna do obstacle course today in class. It's kind of like Ninja Warrior. I'm calling it
So Tom.
Oh yeah. That across the line, you just have
Yep, 100%.
Yeah, this is what I feel comfortable with. That's really great.
I mean, you. As long as you don't.
Yeah, I'm not doing that.
And then move inside the square, right?
So, I do see a bunch of people kind of cutting down into this guard. That's okay, but for this drill specifically, try to cut to long point and come into it.
If you knock that over, you get
Yeah. Can. Think about you're aiming at someone's throat. Yep.
Jump over these, but we're going to be jumping off both feet, right? So we're going to do squat jumps. So you squat, jump, 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 jump. Instead of you can fly and put your arms out like an airplane. If you knock your bag over here, what happens?
Okay. Do you have anything you want to add? Okay. All right. That's everything that I got for today. I just wanted to keep it light and just kind of review. So play around with that. This, like I said, this isn't intended to, if you have a default yourself. I'm just kind of wanted to share with what I've been working on for my own fighting. And I find this is very helpful to me to like be able to just relax and explode upwards for both positions, right? So from my main fighting positions are going to be here or here. All right.
I could add a little bit regarding the stances.
Sure.
Just to simplify it.
Jump in.
So if you're in Iron Gate, right, it is completely dependent on your footwork, but a lot of these stances kind of flow based on what side you're on. They're meant to be, I feel like they're meant to be ambidextrous in a way, right? Because if I'm here in Iron Gate and I change my feet, now I'm in Boar's Tooth, right?
That's what I was getting at with that idea of like noodle arms, where like I don't have to move my sword, I just move my arms and I naturally end up in that position.
Boar's Tooth, Iron Gate, right?
Or Alber, it doesn't matter, right? This is Alber. This is all, everything is Alber. This is Boar's Tooth, but yeah.
And when it comes to the long point, I think this might actually also help when it comes to understanding the concept of pulling back. So within Fiore, there's two guards, there's short and long, breve and longa, right?
Yep, breve and longa.
So breve is long point, but it's retracted and pulled back to your chest basically, so that you don't have to utilize the muscle. Within Fiore, when you want to be in long point, as we were talking Lichtenauer, you're extending out to be in long, right? But there's an alternative version that saves your muscles, which is short, right?
It's like ambidextrous plow, right? Because we have plow here, we have plow here. We also have plow here and plow here, but this is not, doesn't really matter which way your legs are, as you're just holding it in the center. It has some disadvantages, but it does allow you to just kind of hang out here.
And then the cut that he was talking about, the short edge cut, is a good parry, can push you into front guards, right? So these transitions are basically like either you cut into one of the guards, same as Lichtenauer, you know, you cut into front, the front's all the way, or likewise, you cut into the front all the way, you go on this side, right? And then you have these two transitions to get there. If you are in a high guard, whatever high guard, Montauk, Toasted Nona, whatever, right? You can cut to that long guard and then retract short. And then go back, right?
One thing that I was specifically trying to address, and I'm guilty of doing it myself, so you probably see it in many of my students, is out of distance, you know, in Zoofectin, is when we're just kind of doing the guard dance. We're not always paying attention to what the other person is doing. We're just going, right? Like that's a waste of energy. So like, yes, you can probe if you're specifically moving into a position that you could use a hidden strike from to break a guard. But at the same time, I'm just trying to give you some options so that you can be a little bit more thoughtful and, you know, conserve energy and then, you know, do the slightest movement for the same effect rather than have to do some big transition. If there weren't a kids class today, a good example of this was Tom's idea for dance fight, where two pairs of people are fighting, or however many pairs, and you move in between guard positions and change distances, and then when the music stops, you have one exchange. So the idea is that it forces you to read the other person and think about what their intent is from wherever their sword happens to be.
That was Matt's idea.
That was Matt's idea. I'm sorry. I thought that was.
provided the music, but
Oh, you added the music aspect.
no, he did, but
We tuned it up even more.
What'd you do now?
So when you're fighting, or when you're in that like interim,
The dance, yeah.
when the music stops, then you go until somebody gets a hit.
Okay.
Yeah, it's either going to be like one exchange or first hit.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, that's all.
Okay. That's it. I think depending on space and desire to gear up, we could do some foam sparring
It's fine.
or steel if anybody wants to gear all the way up, and we'll do that. Cool. Awesome. You want to add some?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay, cool. All right, everybody make sure you get some water, and then I'm going to grab some foam. Who said Chuck? I'll fight with foam. You want to fight with steel? You want to fight with steel? All right. Let me turn the live stream off.
I need to get back in the swing of things.
No, the only thing I was
Is that a pun?